Governor of Kaduna State, at this investiture ceremony of Mr. Olatunde Mohammed Amolegbe, FCS, as the president of the Council of the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers. Permit me to stand on existing protocols. I must begin by thanking the leadership of Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers of Nigeria for inviting me to this occasion. Chartered Stockbrokers represents a critical part of our national economy in your role as professional advisors, facilitators, and enablers of the capital market. I will now proceed to share my thoughts on the theme you have chosen, which is capacity development, especially professional development, and its influence on employment and wealth creation. Nigeria has a human resource challenge. According to Nigeria Bureau of Statistics, unemployment and underemployment rate in Nigeria was at 23 and 20%. Estimates from Federal Ministry of Labor rated at 33.5%. With this high underemployment rate, we will find it difficult, not only in private space, but even more importantly, in the public space, to fill critical positions. Some private sector persons have chosen to address this capacity and attitudinal gap by hiring expatriates. When we took over the responsibility to govern Kaduna State in 2015, we prioritized local procurement of certain goods and services and learned a few things. For one, we encountered low domestic capacity, even in things like production of school chairs and uniforms. The question I believe we are here to discuss is, what are we doing and what can we do about the status quo? We must first begin by noting that it's at the heart of professional development is human development. It is human beings that become professionals and individuals possessing a set of competencies and capacity to deliver a standard set of services within a particular industry. The role of being a development agent is not just a role reserved for government. Governments are essential in establishing regulatory boundaries within which these institutions should exist. Our Kaduna experience: when we first came to office, it was with this consciousness of the role of institutions in human development that we battled to revitalize the education system in the state. It was clear to us that we had just had to overhaul these institutions that deliver capacity building in the state. All of you can bear witness to the level of hostility and tough decisions we had to make. Our educational institutions represent a social contract with individuals that enroll in them. They expect that government as a development agent is an active gatekeeper, monitoring the quality of that outcome and ensuring that all the necessary inputs required to achieve that are in place, either for public, private institutions. In Kaduna, we have made education free and compulsory to secondary school certificate level, and ensuring that institutions possess the capacity to deliver a minimum level of quality. Every child must have 12 years of schooling. We have abolished the Almajiri system to ensure that every child has the broadest education up to secondary school level, after which they can make choices regarding further study of religion, science, the arts, or whatever interests them. We understand the effects of these interventions that will take time to manifest, but we're already seeing results. There's increased confidence in institutions themselves, and that to us is a particularly good indicator of success. We have also held several professional development programs for teachers to improve their skill set. The government, in collaboration with African Federation of Teaching Regulatory Authorities, AFTRA, recently held a training session for a cohort of junior and secondary school teachers on the implication of higher skill set and quality education. We are making progress in the informal skills sector. In 2018, the federal government of Nigeria launched the National Skills Qualification Framework, NSQF, a competency-based framework for accrediting skills in Nigeria. One of the benefits of this system is that vocational skills like auto mechanics, plumbing, tile works can now be taught with a standard curriculum by mastercraft persons, and the skill sets by assessed by third-party institutions. In essence, we now have our own homegrown vocational skills training and certification system in Nigeria, recognized by the federal government and supervised by the Nigerian Board for Technical Education, MBTE. In Kaduna, we have built on this development to establish a statewide vocational training system within two arms. One is the Community Skills Development Centers, COSDEX, and then the Apprenticeship Management System. Under both systems, apprentices are trained, assessed, and certified under the NSQF with certification from MBTE. Over the past 3 years, we've graduated more than 3,000 beneficiaries already. We're now scaling this system in such a manner that the private sector can lead it. We have established an apprenticeship management committee comprised of representatives of the various trade associations and the goal is to ensure that within each trade, the national occupation standards delineated in NSQF is adopted and used as a standard of skills delivery and certification. We are also partnering with private sector centers of excellence to provide the needed oversight and retraining of the master trainers. For example, one of the foremost automobile technician training institutions in Nigeria, the PAN Learning Center, PAN Peugeot Automobile, is now working with existing auto technicians to retrain and certify them under this new curriculum. This is completely private sector driven. Kaduna Polytechnic, a federal institution in the state, is also providing similar services to various trades in the state. Our experience shows that for these experienced artisans, beyond the new skills is the attendant joy of professional development. Skills development affects people's lives and the well-being of nations in ways that go far beyond what can be measured by labor market earnings and economic growth. For example, the benefits of skills development to an individual's mental health are potentially great. Data from the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, posits that adults with low levels of foundation skills have a higher likelihood of reporting poor health and participate much less in community groups and organizations than adults with high levels of foundation skills. Ladies and gentlemen, skills have become the global currency of the 21st century. Without proper investment in skills, particularly the global economy, Nigeria's economic condition will only get worse. Skills development, however, must be located within not just the international benchmarks, but also must reflect local peculiarities. Our challenges are unique, and if development, as earlier defined, is the profitable interaction with the environment, we must begin to take a closer look at our environment. For example, Nigerian economy is essentially comprised of small and micro enterprises, MSMEs. These play significant roles as engines of socio-economic transformation, including industrialization of many economies the world over. They present a vital platform for boosting technical, technological, and entrepreneurial capacities amongst crucial segments. MSMEs offer opportunities to drive jobs and wealth creation as well as income redistribution within society. They also play significant roles in transition from production-based economies to industrial economies, providing opportunities for value chain linkages that generate sustainable livelihoods for the bottom of the pyramid citizenry. MSMEs account for 76.5% of job numbers in Nigeria and 49.78% of GDP. This is from the Bureau of Statistics, National Bureau of Statistics 2017. This figure is not too different from those of other countries like China and India, where MSMEs present 80 and 40% of the workforce, contribute 60 and 30% to GDP. The difference is that in Nigeria, our MSME sector contributes just 7.8% to export, whereas the figure is 60% and 45% in China and India, respectively. There is a sign that output of our MSME sector is not internationally competitive. In Nigeria, the bulk of the MSME sector are micro enterprises, firms with less than 10 employees and 10 million naira worth of asset base, and they account for 73% of jobs in Nigeria. To boost the competitiveness of our MSME sector, we are in the process of launching the Kaduna MSME Cluster Development and Access to Finance Program. The program will definitely identify MSME clusters that show promise and support them with the required business development support. The program will also facilitate access to development finance where available, with the sole focus of achieving competitiveness. The goal of professional development is to respond up to date on current trends. A 2017 survey by Spedan identified that of 5 major needs of MSMEs, 4 of them are within the arena of professional development. Besides access to finance, MSMEs identified entrepreneurship training and access to vocational training, access to business information, business counseling and mentoring as their major challenges. The same report found that about 84% of MSMEs do not have access to business development support. So in summary, our MSME sector needs technical and business skills support. As a government, our challenge is to find and strengthen institutions that can deliver these skill sets. In the first few years of our administration, we launched the Kaduna Startup and Entrepreneurship Program, CADSTEP, a tripartite relationship between Kaduna State Government, the Bank of Industry, and Kaduna Business School. The goal is to engage about 4,500 eligible young men and women resident in the state to pursue productive enterprise development initiatives. At CADSTEP, eligible candidates are trained for 12 weeks and supported to access loan packages through joint funding by Kaduna State Government and the Bank of Industry. We've also launched the Kaduna State Women Empowerment Fund, which in addition to providing microfinancing to women, will now also provide business clinics to applicants as a precondition to accessing the loan. We understand that getting the best returns on investments in skills requires the ability to assess the quality and quantity of the skills requirement in the near future, identify the gaps, and deliver interventions that proactively meet these skill gaps with the acceleration of changes in technology. It is clear that the skills of the future will be entirely different from what it is today. So we're all in a race to prepare our citizenry to be relevant in this future. The unemployment statistics show that there's a lot more that can be done. Governments are limited in their capacity to create direct jobs or best effort as the development of institutions. The day calls for big thinking. I'd earlier stated that our skills must reflect local peculiarities as professional traders. I must task you to look beyond the stocks currently quoted on the Nigerian stock market and envision new possibilities. A possibility that can address the huge financing gap required to address the emerging opportunities in Nigeria's agricultural and other similar value chains as a future without oil looms. The market leaders of the future will be different from those of today. You will need to figure out how to educate not only your members, but also potential firms that will need your services. You will need to educate the leaders of this future and ensure that the social contract with them is just and that the outcomes are worth the investment of time and money. You will need to take another look at Nigeria's MSME sector and ask if we're not overlooking a gold mine. In your efforts, you must recognize that beyond technical skills is the challenge of attitude and of character. To face an increasingly challenging and competing world, the importance of teaching character traits such as performance-related traits, adaptability, persistence, resilience, and moral-related traits such as integrity, justice, empathy, ethics cannot be overemphasized. You have a task of raising members with a faith in Nigeria, with the competence and fortitude to contribute to our development. You will also have to look beyond the minimum mandatory compulsory education. You must put modalities in place to ensure that the labor market is also a place for learning. This is especially important, particularly because we're dealing with decades of failed education institutions. The least we can do is to ensure that our organizations, in part, become learning institutions in themselves. We are championing the thinking in Kaduna State using the instrumentality of the Kashim Ibrahim Fellowship. The fellowship is a one-year non-partisan leadership program launched in 2018 that seeks to create a network of high-potential young Nigerians who are expected to rise to top leadership positions in public sector and other spheres of activity over the next decade. Fellows are assigned to 4 different administrative units on a 3-month rotational basis within Kaduna State during their year-long fellowship. These rotations provide fellows with a broad sense of how government works, a robust and versatile knowledge of NDA's functions, in addition to comprehensive understanding of the state government structures, programs, and policies. Fellows are mentored and supported to gain valuable practical experience in tasks of policy formulation and execution, everyday decision-making, and implementation of the public service delivery. In addition to these rotations are mentorship sessions and training sessions from leading private and public executives. Perhaps worthy of mention is the capacity and leadership training for senior public servants at Harvard University, fully funded by the state government. This gives an opportunity for senior public servants and office holders to develop their leadership capacity. This initiative has been going on since 2013. I thank you very much for listening.